During the slim window of the first reopening, I managed to squeeze in a collab with Peter. But unfortunately, the audio is unusable because both of us were wearing a mask and the background music was very loud. We didn't have a chance to reshoot because the gym closed again. So we decided to have a video call to go over the footage and have Peter teach us how to dyno through his commentary.
The definition of a dyno is one where all 4 points of contact are off the wall. So the first step in doing that is actually leaving both hands off, because if the dyno is too big for you to have one hand on the starting hold and the next hand up on the target hold, you can't span that. Then you need to be able to get both hands off the wall to get there. And yeah, so you did it. It's a good little warm up. Usually that's how I'll warm up for dynos. It's just little pops from here to there while taking both hands off the wall. This is a bigger one. This is a perfect example of you need to get both of your hands off the wall, because I couldn't span this, you couldn't span this. So taking both hands off the wall and actually launching yourself is huge. As I'm watching, the first bit of trouble that you were having was really, you would pull in a little bit, you would jump, but then you jump away from the wall. That really will be fixed if you just kind of pull harder into the wall before you jump. The most efficient way of doing a dyno is getting your body as close into the wall as possible. And the closer you stay to the wall, then the further you can go.
One of the reasons that I did it, I think a lot of beginners, is that they're afraid of bumping their face onto the wall.
I can tell you all the mechanics and techniques that go into a dyno, but really the biggest impediment that everyone comes across is just the fear aspect. Whether that fear is falling or risking to bumping your head into the wall, which, by the way, I get the fear. It's never happened. I've hit my hands, I've hit my elbows, I've never hit my body, I've never hit my head. It's just not going to happen. You did a really good job on that one too. It didn't take you very long to do it. So yeah. So when it comes to holding a swing, if you're doing it from a legitimate jug to jug, hold the swing however you want to hold the swing. The chances of you slipping off are slim. But that pink hold that I jumped to, really what it was this really big pinch. So that's where I really engage my core to try and keep from slipping off the hold. A lot of people will tell you to kind of tuck your knees into your chest. Don't do that. Tucking your knees into your chest is not the same as coring up, because at some point you can tuck your legs in and it will prevent your body from swinging out too much. And that'll work for some cases if the hold is good enough. But if it's a really bad hold, if it's a pinch, if it's a sloper, if it's, tiny little edges, tucking your legs in is just going to make the whole thing way more difficult. So let your legs go where they want it. If your legs are going to swing out to the left and over to the right, let them go. Just don't fight the momentum. Just hold on, kind of arch your back a little bit. And then when it comes time to bring your legs in, go into that gymnast hollow body, hollow out your core. And that's how I think about holding a dyno swing. That's not going to help you with height or power or anything, but it will help you hold on to worse holds when you're doing dynos. I'm looking at the way your body is set up before the jump on this overhanging dyno. Your knees are a little bit too wide apart. I know that for the most part, you're supposed to be able to kind of keep your hips as close to the wall as possible. But you have to think about the dyno in terms of, how am I going to maximize power? And there's a few ways. Keeping your arms straight rather than starting like this, because if you start like this and you pull in, that's way less than starting here and then pulling in. But also keeping your entire lower half sunk down as well. It's kind of like jumping where your legs are at a 90 degree rather than jumping from a squat position. You're going to get a lot higher if you're jumping from a squat position rather than 90 degrees or even less than that. When I was watching you do this pink one, that's sort of what came into my mind was you got on the wall and then you kind of just engage your hips into the wall, but your arms are still straight. Your shoulders and everything were back, but your hips were up near the wall. So if you kept everything sagged, your back curved, your butt low, your feet in the squat position, and your arms straight, those are all things that'll help you maximize that pull and jump for the dyno. We had Leo do this one. I think this one was really to emphasize how straight your arms need to be before you pull, how low you really do need to get your body. Because a lot of the times people think they might be getting their body as low as they possibly can, and it's really not hitting that mark. So if you look at Leo, he really sinks his body low before the jump. I'm not too big of a fan of pumping before you do the dyno. You pump once if you need to, just kind of get used to the movement. anything over once, you're just wasting energy.
So you actually did a few attempts and then you finally get it. Like, is there like anything adjustment that you made in order to make that possible?
That's a perfect example of the process that I had to go through, where each time I was getting a little bit closer, I knew I needed more power and I felt that I had more power to give, but it just wasn't clicking. I wasn't really giving all that I could give. If you lack just a little bit in the jump, if you lack just a little bit in holding the swing, if you lack just a little bit in the setup, then you're not going to be performing at your best. But the more I was doing it, the more comfortable I was getting with the whole thing. And at some point I was able to just kind of commit fully. This was a project of yours, right?
Do you consider this a dyno?
Yeah. The definition of a dyno really is just getting from one hole to the other where the distance is far greater than that which you could do statically. According to that definition, absolutely. So this is definitely something that you'd see a lot more common in indoor competition settings. A lot of people will tell you, I don't see the value in doing these kinds of movements. I don't really see any application to the more general climbing skills. But that's not necessarily true either. A lot of what people lack is spatial awareness and body awareness too. Usually when you see these kinds of dynos, it's a lot of power that you gotta be able to put out to get from target A to target B. This one, you really had to dial it back because the movement was the same. The distance was not that far. There is such a thing as too much power. You can overshoot and the swing is too great for you to hold. So that was a little tricky. But eventually you started getting it really well.
Can you give us a breakdown or comparison between traditional upwards dyno versus, like sideways dynos? Like what's the main difference between the two?
When you get set up for a dyno, when you're going up, you kind of just launch up. Really simple, really easy, shouldn't be a problem. But if you're starting going diagonally or even laterally, that's when you really have to start pivoting. So a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll have their arms straight, but to try and get to the hole, they just keep pulling like this. That's not really going to do much. What you need to do is you need to actually pivot towards the hold. You have the sort of leg that you pogo to get the momentum. If you have your hand starting here and you're trying to go to my right, what you do is you pivot, and then once you're here, then you launch and you jump. The more directional it gets, then you need to really be able to pivot. If I had to give a little bit of advice on what you can do outside of climbing to help with dynos, box jumps, body weight squats, muscle ups, dynamic pull-ups. But like I said, really the most important thing is commitment.
Special thanks to Peter for teaching us the ins and outs of dynos. Make sure to hit the like button if you learned something from this video. Also, make sure to check out my website geekclimber.com and Peter's channel as shown in the end screen. See you in the next video.